Welcome to another episode of Distory with Kate and Kirk. My name is Kirk from walruscarp.com, and today we are going back to the Tower of Terror in DCA as well as the one in Paris. And we're going to be focusing on external cues and a little bit of the lobby. There are lots of carryovers, but with me to discuss the differences of these two cues would be Kate, the Disney Cicerone. Kate, you ready, spaghetti?
I'm so ready. Yeah, this is really fun because everybody thinks that these are identical towers, and for a lot of ways they are, but this is going to be really fun to dig into these particular versions of the Tower of Terror because there are nuances and differences between the two that I don't think a lot of people have necessarily compared and contrasted them, so that'll be really fun to dig into that. But before we go forward, we have to go back like we usually do. I just want to mention thanks to some of our Distory community for adding their input to this series, especially because neither of us are local to Disneyland Paris in particular. I grew up, with the DCA version. Kirk grew up with the Tower of Terror version. So we're more familiar with those, but a lot of the Disneyland Paris people are now chiming in to just give us a little bit more info of what they know. So thank you for that. Thank you to Distory listener on YouTube, CJ, who said, in support of Kate's belief that the Paris version was designed before DCA, from what I've read, this is true. And I think some evidence to support this is in the Pueblo Deco architectural style. Similar to the Phantom Manor's Wild West treatment to Haunted Mansion, I think the Pueblo style was chosen specifically to appeal to the French fascination with America's Old West, which is a brilliant insight, and I agree. And the more digging I did, it indeed was designed for Disneyland Paris first, and then put in California Adventure before Paris because of budget issues and whatnot. So, Kirk, it makes sense that, because we studied Frontierland and everything, and they love their Old West over there.
And isn't there like a Pueblo or a Western hotel that's in Disneyland too?
Yeah, there's the Cheyenne. Hotel Cheyenne is the one, and there's actually the Santa Fe as well. So there's two ones that are themed after Old
that
West.
Makes perfect sense. So interesting.
Yeah. Jake DLP commented that in many European countries, including France, the Twilight Zone was titled the Fourth Dimension. La Quatrième Dimension. I probably said that wrong, but so remember how we were saying, why isn't it not the fifth dimension? The fourth? That was a common thing there. So thank you for solving that for us, Jake.
Wow,
and also,
dude.
Yeah.
Wow. Hang on. Let's take a second. That is, we would have never known. That is a cultural difference with Paris. So that's fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yeah, instead of the fifth dimension. So that was really fun. I just wanted to mention also, because we talked about the exterior and the architecture last week, and we don't need to get into all of that again today, but DCA was truly the most budget conscious of all the towers because they cost cut basically any place they could in order to just make the tower happen because they were so out of money. So that included cutting architectural details. And so many of the architectural elements on DCA's facade were actually just painted illusions versus the ones in Disneyland Paris were more actual real details. So I thought that was pretty an interesting thing. I know that they said if you look at the Tower of Terror and you look at the very top of it, there's kind of these almost like ridges, like vertical lines that are on the top. And my understanding is those were painted here in California Adventure, but they were actual structural, sculpted concrete in Disneyland Paris. And that's just one example of the ways that it was more ornate.
Interesting.
Yeah. Which is also
Callie, got hosed.
It also made it easier for them to do the Guardians of the Galaxy overlay because they didn't have to take off elements. They could just tack stuff over them.
It made it most easiest to go to Guardians.
Yes. Anyway, thank you to everybody for giving us a little bit more information, context. We always appreciate when you guys give us something that we don't know already that we can share with everybody else. So appreciate that. That being said, let's move on over to the exterior queue. So this is everything that's on the outside. So I do have some notes from the show info guide from Imagineering that was for California Adventure before it opened. And this says about the exterior, it said the Hollywood Tower Hotel, a long-abandoned luxury hotel, closed under mysterious circumstances, has opened its doors once again, offering tours of its historic, glamorous facilities. Signs of decay and neglect are evident immediately. The grounds are overgrown, the building aged and untended, though still magnificent. In the upper facade of the hotel, the tower, The structure of the building has been broken away, allowing a view of the elevator shafts. As guests approach the building, screams can be heard from high above as elevator doors open, allowing the passengers with a brief view outside. The doors close as the elevator plummets. Continuing on, guests follow the path of either the standby queue or the fast pass return. As they make their way through the grounds and into the lobby, haunting music can be heard echoing from some distant ballroom long ago. And before we kind of like get into the nitty-gritty details of this exterior queue, I just want to mention that the music is the same as the Florida version, is the same as Disneyland Paris. They're all the same. They just use the exact same background music for all of them, which makes sense.
Okay.
They just repeat it, right? Like, well, I fixed something. It isn't broken. So there is a note, though, from the show info guide. It says the area music features jazz and popular tunes from the 1930s, such as I Can't Get Started With You by Bunny Berrigan, We'll Meet Again by Vera Lynn, and Mood Indigo by Duke Ellington, which were all chosen for a certain timeless haunting quality. The music was then sonically treated to suggest it was being performed in a distant ballroom long ago, which we talked at length about the music in the Florida episode of the exterior queue. So I'm not going to get into all of that again today, but just to give you a little bit of context about what you're hearing.
Is it diegetic or not diegetic, Kate? Quick.
Oh, gosh. Well, you're in it, right? So that would be diegetic. You're hearing it in
we're
real
there.
time.
We're experiencing it.
So Kirk is our resident plant expert.
Hey, where's my botany glasses? I should have like a whole setup, like a whole like safari gear for when I do this.
Yeah.
I next time. Anyway.
Next time. Yeah. There'll be a next time. There's always a next time when it comes to landscaping with Kirk.
Well, your resident flora and fauna guide.
So I'm going to give you some details about a few of the architectural details, structural details, and Kirk is going to walk us through the plants and what we're seeing as we go through these queues. So as we approach, we see this monument sign out front. This is the California Adventure version, and then the Disneyland Paris version is here. And they're very, very similar. The only difference between them is there's like this little HTH, Hollywood Tower Hotel plaque that is on either side of the one that's in Paris. Otherwise, they're pretty much identical. They've got this beautiful tile work that's definitely the Pueblo Declo kind of teal blue and like orangish red detailing there. But I do have a note from the show info guide. It says a second marquee called the monument sign for its shape is located to the left of the approach to the hotel from Sunset Boulevard near the hotel entrance driveway. The sign transforms magically into a bronze plaque reading Hollywood Tower Hotel in the glowing, flickering name of the attraction, the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. This is the only place on the hotel grounds that the name of the attraction appears, which, Kirk, I'd never really considered that before. Have you?
No.
So this is the only place, technically, I think it is on the like warning sign. I think it's also there, but at least in when this opened, that was the only place this appeared in the attraction, according to the show info guide. The sign thus conveys both the name and the nature of the attraction while serving as a key photo location and landmark for the guests. To accomplish this transformation, a brightly lit fiber optic pixie dust display is embedded in the bronze plaque. The plaque is located at the back of a dry fountain, extensively cracked by the same phenomenon that scarred the hotel tower and exposed the elevator shafts. Cracks running through the fountain extend out onto the sidewalk in front of it. That's what we see with the monument sign. You can see the cracks pretty clearly here all the way through the fountain. I don't have any of the ones of it in front on the ground. I'm kind of bummed that I didn't look into that. But I know that in DCA, they now use a lot of the cracks that are on the ground and they filled them in with a like cosmic goo or whatever. And there's like a hidden Mickey in them. So
that is true. I saw it when I was there. Yeah.
I just have a little nod about the Disney's FastPass distribution area that used to exist, and they still exist as like structures, but they're not functional, obviously, because they gave up doing FastPasses in 2021. Rest in peace, FastPasses. We miss you. It says in the show info guide, the FastPass facility located across the street from the hotel is resembled to style a light rail station. The FastPass ticketing machines are contained in housing styled as stacks of luggage and steamer trunks, recently unloaded and about to be delivered to the hotel. So you can see they were just suitcases essentially with a whole bunch of stickers, just like we saw at the end of the Florida version. This is what the FastPass used to look like. I feel like this is the one that's from Paris.
Okay.
And then these are the FastPass distribution areas for this one's in Paris, and then this one is in DCA.
And if you press the button, you can spit out a bunch of them.
And I love the style in particular, Kirk, of the clock. It looks kind of like one of those like Art Deco watches. That's one of my favorite details of that. So I just wanted to make a general comment about the landscaping from the show info guide, and then we're going to let Kirk just like tell us about all the plants, which I'm very excited about. So about the landscaping, it says the landscaping has been designed to reflect what was typical of an upscale hotel in 1930s Southern California. Chinese flame trees, magnolias, and various forms of palm trees have been used. A particularly beautiful specimen of coral tree is located near the Fast Pass light rail station. Overall, a sense of neglect is suggested in the look of the landscaping to accompany the tone established in the architecture. For instance, dead palm fronds have intentionally not been stripped from the palm trees to indicate a lack of care for many years. Tall grasses grow among the shrubs and ground cover, contributing to the unkempt by design look. So that's all I have about the landscaping. Kirk, take it away.
Oh boy, oh boy. Let's get it. Oh, hang on. Let's deal with the plant life. Well, up here on the right-hand side, we see a Canary Island date palm, which we actually have plenty of date palms in the Floridian version as well. They are known for being a thick pineapple textured crown shaft, which is like that upper bulbous region. And then on the bottom, they call them diamond boots because they're kind of like interlaced together and have like a diamond shaped pattern on them. So it's like, I never thought of palm trees having like the trunk section being called like a boot, but that's what they call them. It's like cowboy boots. And then huge arching fronds with stiff leaflets. By the way, when you see these out and about in Florida, you know, it's funny. Like I think of fall where I grew up in New Jersey, you know, you'd see like leaves everywhere. It's funny to see the leaflets because they are thick and they're almost dangerous and brown. Like you don't want to run over them with your car and like you have to like trim your palm trees because they just, first of all, they look nasty. But second of all, they are big and they are heavy. So I've seen some people do some really cool artistry where they paint on the leaflets. Now, we also have a couple other smaller trees. There's a crepe myrtle that's directly to the left of it. It is a smooth trunked ornamental tree, roughly about 8 to 12 feet. Very common in South California, so it makes sense. And then there are lots of different like shrubs. The shrubs are hard to tell exactly which specific ones. This is that crepe myrtle, where if I go back between these pictures, you'll be able to see the non-flowering version is the one that's dead in the front.
It's pretty though.
Yes. Now, the other thing that Kate had a great picture, and I want to just shout out, thank you, Yesterland, because I just totally utilized all of your pictures because they're fantastic. You notice that we have these types of ferns over here. They're actually, it's a different term. They are called New Zealand flax or bronze babies.
Okay.
They are long sword-like leaves that are upright and fan-like. They have a distinctive bronze or copper coloration. They are thick, waxy, stiff leaf blades, and they're decorative. Now, we use a lot of like snake plants in the Floridian version, but these are better climate-wise for California. So it's predominantly because of the heat that they get in California.
It's drier
not
there.
Not a lot of moisture, exactly. So
right.
in here too, we have some palms in the back, and we have another section of plant life over here to the right. In the back there's lots of different palms that this could be. I took a guess that it is one of these Mexican fan palms because it's hard to really tell specifically which ones they are. But some of the root system looks similar to that. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe that's it. We also get some varying type of ivy. It could be common ivy, or it could be something that is known as either pink or Chinese jasmine. It depends on if it flowers or not. I don't know if it flowers because I have no pictures from it. So if somebody knows if it did flower, that would be really helpful to identifying it as a plant, because this would be if it was flowering. So I'm not sure if it ever got these white type blooms on it, but I need help if you have that information, that would be fantastic.
Those ones
And
smell
then,
really good too.
Yes. And then we also get, these are Lomandra longifolia or dwarf mat rush, which are thin strap-like grass leaves, and they're rigid, and they're very common in South California for like landscaping. Again, super hardy and drought resistant, so that's why they put them as like kind of just like Disney scrub grass. It's like it just goes kind of, you can put it anywhere to just fill out planters, and that's exactly what they use here.
Right. Ornamental grasses.
Ornamental grasses. Get excited for ornamental grasses. You can see them particularly right here next to the warning sign over on the left-hand side. You see those guys.
Yeah, and it does have the Twilight Zone. Tower of Terrors has the full name on there. So
the other thing is, I couldn't tell because it doesn't show it on the right-hand side of this picture, but these look a lot like birds of paradise, but there are no of the bird shape. Like, I don't know where they would be, but they look 100% like that. But I'm not sure if they ever planted birds of paradise.
They do have a lot of birds of paradise on Disneyland property in general, especially when you're like walking in. So
that would be a good assumption that is probably birds of paradise.
Yeah.
And that takes us out of all the plants, at least over in California.
I just have kind of an overall view of what this queue looks like, just to give you a little orientation as to what we're looking at. This would have been the Fast Pass queue over here on the right side in California, which just has a fountain that you circle around. These queues are not like the Florida version. There's not extensive grounds that you're walking through with, signs about, bowling and, pools and all the things. They don't have any of that. It's very, very small area, very truncated. And so you have basically the left or the right is where you're going, and they're very short queues.
Don't you like the stanchions though? It's rare to find stanchions that are not rounded. Like they have that Pueblo Deco style, and they're cut out almost like a table leg would be.
Yeah. They're very highly stylized for that Art Deco style, Pueblo Deco style. And so this is the other side of the queue, which features kind of this pergola, which we've discussed the history of pergolas in our Florida version, so I'll do that. And I'm pretty sure that these plants here, Kirk, are real and not, we had a lot of fake vines in the Florida version, but these all look real to me. Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. This is the Paris version if you're headed to that kind of same direction. And the only difference there is that they have like a loop around a tree. And then there's just like this really beautiful kind of gate that you walk through. And that's pretty much all I have, except for like the lights are different than the Florida version in that they have this more that glass that we've talked about, like that slag glass in them. But there's just styled in that more Art Deco style. So really there's just not much to talk about here. There is in the queue of the Paris version, there's like a few benches and whatnot. There's just kind of like random, stone objects that you would find in the garden, but that's pretty much it. So, Kirk, do you want to tell us more about Disneyland Paris's landscaping?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Okay.
So I have a picture of, we're in the garden section. And there's lots of different plants in here. There's also something for bugs, which cracks me up because that's just like hanging in plain view of guests.
Yeah, well, it's Disneyland Paris.
What is that? Give me context to that.
I've always felt like Disneyland Paris in general, or Euro Disney as it used to be, Walt Disney Studios Park, which is what we're in technically now. They don't seem to have the same standards as the U.S. parks in terms of hiding some of their infrastructure, is what I've seen.
Oh.
And like that was one of the things that struck me first when I went there back in 2006, I think. Mm-hmm. Was when you go up onto the castle, because you can go to the second story of Sleeping Beauty Castle there, and you can look out over Fantasyland. And I basically just saw a lot of the roof with like a lot of the AC units on it, and I was like, "This is not very magical."
Yeah.
And so for me, it's like it doesn't mean that it's that way. Although there's lots of magical things about Disneyland Paris, so please don't hear what I'm not saying. But I would say that you see a few more of the things that they would probably tend to hide in the U.S. parks a little bit easier. So that's why I was like, well, that's par for the course for Disneyland Paris. So
okay,
yeah.
There you go. You heard it here first. It is a lesser park.
No, Well, Walt Disney Studios Park is a lesser park.
I think, honestly, I think a lot of people would probably agree in terms of that, and DCA probably get the biggest knocks for being less Disney park-like.
Yeah.
Out of all the parks, especially internationally, because they spend so much money in particularly in the Asian ones. So
yeah, it's true. I do like this comment though from Moogie saying AC units in Europe, that is magical. And I do agree with that. They don't really, even when they have AC, they don't turn it up very high. So it's just, I was there in the heat wave this summer when the really hot one in Paris that closed the Eiffel Tower because it was like 100 degrees out. And it was so hot. It was unbearable. I think it was 104 the day I was there. And in Florida, if it's that hot, you just like live in the AC, right? You just duck in and out of buildings and all those kinds of things. And I was like, well, there was very little AC to be found. So it was very hard to make it through the day and nobody does like electric fans there. They all do hand fans. So we're all standing in the queue with our hand fans. Felt very old world. So
that's crazy.
Yeah. They're not really into their AC in Europe in general. So anyway, continue on with plants, Kirk. Bring us back in.
So there's a lot going on in this photo in the garden. There is a statue right there, which I think is interesting. There are, it's not as much as Kate had said, but from this picture, we're seeing varying types of either spruce or evergreens. This one's hard for me to tell because I'm not fully zoomed out. I do have a better picture of a spruce tree, and we can actually identify that one. We also have a saucer magnolia, which is on the left-hand side. And then there are a ton of different like shrubs and ground layer stuff like moss. And even if you look on the ground, there's just like leaves strewn about. And like this like feels like how it would be if it was abandoned. Although they did knock off some of the bottom limbs from this tree, which I thought was kind of interesting. The red-tipped shrubs are called photinia, and they have, that characteristic 5-leaf structure to them. Another picture, I just like this one because it has the plaque of the Hollywood Tower Hotel, 1929.
Can I say something about that real quick?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, with this plaque, it's really interesting because the Disneyland Paris one is 1929, but Disneyland, the California Adventure one, in the show info guide, it says 1928. And so it looks like the plaques to me, from what I've seen, they both said 1929, but the show info guide was very clear it was 1928. So I'm still not quite sure exactly what it is. So a little bit of a mystery there.
Oh, interesting. I wonder why they would have made that decision.
Yeah, I don't know. So I'm pretty sure these are two different ones. So you can see this is 1929 and you can see there's like a blue stripe underneath it. And so unless they painted this one, which I don't think they did, they both say 1929, but the show info guide says 1928 and is very emphatic. It's all over it. It's not like a typo one place. It's in multiple places. So not really sure what happened there, but they changed it to 1929 at some point. So anyway, keep going.
So one thing that you notice with this creeping long vine, and this one, as the time period that this photo was taken, all the leaves had died off. But you notice there's all these like sticky pads all over the place. Well, this is typical Boston ivy, where it creeps and grows much like almost like a creeping weed, and it has these like sticky structures to them that you can almost see it in the dead center if you zoom in right here, like behind it. Or even in this little crack down here in the bottom center. And what I love about that, and I stared at this picture for a second because I just thought it was interesting to see what the residuals of Boston ivy afterwards is like. It almost has like a clawing effect, especially on the right of like these like something that was clearly there but is gone now. And it's, like why wouldn't they clean it or scrape them off or something to that effect? But I think it gives it a creepy vibe. Like,
yeah,
it's almost like a skeletal remain or like a claw mark or a footprint, on the wall.
It definitely adds to that kind of overgrown, unkempt feeling for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. Next one. We're back in the garden. We get a little bit of a better view of some of the flowering like underbrush. Because you remember, like, there's 3 different layers of the canopies and whatnot. So we have some terminalis on the ground, which is a Japanese dense evergreen style mat. It's kind of glossy. We also get a drooping tree or a weeping Norway spruce.
Ooh,
So
I like that.
I think this is the same style of tree that was in the other picture, but it was just we weren't zoomed out enough to really fully get it. We actually see more spruce trees and cedar trees as well a little bit later on. And then you'll see some creeping vine. Now, this is different than Boston ivy. This is English ivy or Hedera helix, which is a classic European style ivy that's dark and evergreen. So like color wise, that fits as well.
Super invasive too. You don't want that in your yard.
No. I mean, most of this stuff is like, they act very like common vulgaris. To put it bluntly, a weed. So we also have some stinging nettle on the bottom left-hand side and some common dandelion, just like weeds that are growing on the bottom as well.
Yeah.
So
a lot of these plants that we see here are very common in the Pacific Northwest as well. And that's because we're on the same latitude as this area of France. So almost all of these plants that we see here are what is growing here in Oregon as well. So like I have the shrub that's on the left, at least it looks very similar to the Mexican orange one that's native to Oregon. And then of course the evergreens and whatnot. We just have very similar climates. So all this stuff is like, this could all be in my backyard.
hence why Kate, when she said they're highly invasive, that was like a sign of distaste and disgust. That is because she has to deal with it.
Yeah, well, we don't keep it in our yard. Our biggest invasive plant is blackberry, and we fight blackberry bushes everywhere all the time, and they're awful. We've talked about this before in Distory, so we don't need to.
Yeah, but blackberries are delicious, Kate.
Yeah, but you don't want them in your yard. Trust me, they're awful. They're horrible to remove, and they're really, really, really invasive. They'll go everywhere really fast, and they're nasty because they have really big thorns. So you don't want blackberries in your yard. Mm-mm.
Oh,
don't do it. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I thought they'd be delicious, but I guess not.
Raspberries, but with containers. You got to plant them in those containers with the bottom sliced off, like one of those paint buckets from like Lowe's or whatever. Yeah.
Raspberries over blackberries. Got it.
Mm-hmm. Yep, we have those in our backyard.
Sweet. Okay.
Okay.
Now we're out to the front side of the facade. We're still in the garden area, but we get to see a much larger tree. This is a white cedar. They're very conical in shape. So this is just a picture of what one would look like in a nursery. So they kind of grow like a column, and you can prune them different ways. They decided to make theirs more triangular in the Tower of Terror in Paris, where sometimes, like if they're in an ornamental garden, sometimes they'll keep them almost like an eye or like a straight column. They just trim them very, very close, almost like bonsai. They can really take on a nice look. The one thing that I think is interesting when you see some of these things is like what the needles look like. Like those little nettles are pretty cool. Just like the structure of them when you zoom in. The only other thing that I was able to find, and I can't find my picture from Paris, but I identified there is a Japanese gold dust plant that you can find in some of the pictures as well. That's what I got.
Oh, okay. Great. So I was so engrossed in plant talk, I didn't even notice we moved on.
It's trust me, it really grows on you. Take a photosynthesis; it'll last longer.
Very nice.
Thank you.
So let's start moving closer to the entrance here. We did get a note from a Distory listener named Captain Brick Sparrow. Shout out to them, who is making a model of the California Adventure version. So they've been like paying really close attention to the details on the tower. And so they said they were doing some research, and the lights at the outside of this attraction that you can see kind of hanging here are very similar to the ones that are on the Maricopa County Courthouse in downtown Phoenix. And the building was constructed in 1929. And so this is what it looks like up close. This is from the actual auction of this light when they sold it. So you can see the architectural details on that. And yeah, they're very, very similar lights. You can see them here, this kind of like tiered system where it gets narrow at the bottom. But thank you for that, Captain Brick Sparrow. We appreciate that.
Those are beautiful.
Aren't they gorgeous? Yeah. The details here. I love this like Pueblo Deco style. It's just beautiful. So let's creep on into the entrance here. One of the most significant things, because there's not a lot to talk about in this one, but there is something that's on the ground, which is this mosaic, inlaid tile with the Hollywood Tower Hotel logo. And we did talk about the logo in Florida, how it had quetzalcoatl's on the side, like the dragon-esque deity that represented lightning. Note that they do not have that here at all. They have removed it for this version of the tower for whatever reason. It is unique to the Florida version. It does not exist here in Disneyland Paris or California Adventure. But California Adventure, they have the version here that they just surround it by chains so people won't walk on it. For whatever reason, they didn't want people walking on it. I don't really know why. But in Paris, they actually have a fence erected around it. So I don't know why people aren't allowed to walk on this. Maybe they're just trying to keep it clean or something. But or maybe it's part of the storytelling of the hotel that the history is that they would do this. I don't know if you know anything about this, Kirk, because I don't know.
No, I mean, it kind of reminds me of, you know how in the Hall of Presidents, you're not allowed to, because that's like an official seal, and they don't let you walk on that. I think maybe they're trying to mirror something out of respect for the Tower Hotel, and I'm not really sure. Maybe that was commonplace.
Yeah.
It's a great question.
That's what I was thinking, but I don't know for sure. And yeah, my brain instantly went to the seal that's in the Hall of Presidents too, because that's our context for that. And then I do have a note from the show info guide. It says the hotel lobby is entered through a pair of ornate bronze doors. Above the doors, a sunburst pattern in glass with stained glass chevron accents exemplifies a Native American motif common to Pueblo Deco, which is, we've talked about this before. Kirk said it kind of looks like arrows that are spread out. And it does mimic the elevator dial as well, so it's subtle foreshadowing for what we're going to see. And this is what it looks like from the inside too. It's just really beautiful design element as you walk into the tower there. Before we go into the lobby, we're going to take a quick little break and talk about some things we got going on at Walrus Carp and Disney Cicerone, because it's a busy season headed into the holidays. So Kirk, what do you got going on over there at Walrus Carp these days?
It's the holiday season, and hoop-de-hoop. And Dickory Dock. Don't forget to start to shop at walruscarp.com. We got free shipping on everything.
Very nice.
Bro, you know what's funny is I never talk about our clothes, right? And we have a bunch of holiday stuff. We have some gingerbread designs, and there's Snope, and go check it out. You can check our Christmas stuff for theme parks, but also just in general. We started talking about our clothing in really terrible videos and ads online, like awful, like just I got this, I never talk about it, here I am talking about it. We've been selling a lot more clothes because of that. Who would have thought that if you actually talk about your stuff with regularity? And I always feel like guilty about that, because I'm like, oh well, people, if they want to support, they'll make a decision. But the truth is, until you have like $1 million in like gross revenue, no one knows you exist. So here we are telling people, please go and check out walruscarp.com and find some Christmas or holiday merch, or just some theme park stuff in general. But of course, the big thing is for this series is we had our new Tower of Terror shirt come out. So if you want to grab your own Hollywood Tower Hotel, thanks for dropping by. Sure, you can get that at walruscarp.com.
That's fabulous. I love that for this series.
Yeah, it's a good one.
And I love your Christmas shirts in general. The one that you're currently wearing was one we bought for our whole family last year. And like we got pajama pants, but then we just bought shirts from you for the top. So that was like our family like Christmas jammies, which was really fun.
Yeah. Oh, that's so fun. Jammy jams. Yeah. Some people do like Christmas cards and stuff with our shirts, which always cracks me up. Like it's a funny thing when you're in the clothing business to see like how people wear your items while they're making their memories. And I think that's a really special thing that you know, clothing people is an essential, and it's just cool when people decide to do it with your stuff. It always freaks me out a little bit, you know, because it's so cool. Like it freaks me out because it's real, it's tangible, you know, it's something that's in the physical space, especially when we work in the content space. Everything is digital, so it's nice to see like physicality.
Yeah.
So Kate, what are we up to, dude? You're up to a lot. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm keeping busy, that's for sure. And I mean, speaking of people living with your things, like a lot of people will tell me that they'll keep some of my books like on their bedside stand if they need a little bit of encouragement, which is like the sweetest thing ever. So
It's nice.
but I do want to talk just a little bit about this one, which is Who the Mirror Reflects, specifically because we are talking about Disneyland Paris, and this book ends up in Disneyland Paris. So there's not a whole lot of fiction literature out there for Disney fans that actually has like Disneyland Paris in it. So I thought I would point out this one in particular. But this book is about two Disney history loving cast members who find each other in the reflection of the rivers of America in the Magic Kingdom, which there's a lot of change going on over there. So if you're nostalgic for it, this might be a good read for you. But soon their perception of their relationship becomes distorted by their past. As their inner villains threaten to pull them apart, they discover that choosing love, even when it's hard, is the most magical gift of all. So this one is Walt Disney World and then Disneyland Paris. If you just kind of need a little bit of escape, especially during the holidays, I know things can get kind of a little bit emotionally overwhelming with family and tasks and all that kind of stuff. So if you just want to like disappear for a little while and go to the parks, this would be a great one. This is the third book in the Pixie Dust in the Park series, and you can find it on Amazon, or if you would like me to just read it to you while you relax, you can find it on audible.com. So but yeah, I'm busy over here because I've almost done with my next book in the nonfiction series, the third book in the Moments of Magic series. I have one more chapter to write, and then it goes out to my early readers. So I have a working title for it. It's not totally done yet, but it's going to be based around love and the idea of how we experience love in a whole bunch of different contexts. So that will be out hopefully right before Valentine's Day. So just throughout the time of year when we're thinking about all things
Lovey-dovey.
Yeah. So that's coming up soon, but let's head back on over to the towers, and we got to go inside the lobby for these things. So creeping on inside, the main thing to know here is that these lobbies are not nearly as ornate as the ones that are in the Florida version. That doesn't mean that they're...
Woo! Florida. That's right. You heard it here. Florida's better. You heard it. That's what's up.
Mainly because they did... Kirk's very excited for that. It is true. The Florida version is better because they didn't have the budget. The budget is a fraction of the one that was in Florida, and they'd already used a lot of their props that were in storage. And some things are just repeats of what's in Florida. What we're looking at here is the California Adventure version. And this has more like reds and golds as its color palette. And it's definitely more like a yellow hue to it. But if we pop over to Paris, you see this photo doesn't really do it justice, but there's definitely more like pinks, purples, greens, and like it's a lighter palette, and the walls are a lot less yellow. They're more of like a light tan color. So the other thing to note, Kirk, and this is helping me stay organized, so maybe it will help you too, but you'll notice there's a lot more cobwebs in the California Adventure version, and there's hardly any in the Paris one. So
yeah,
there's
I
dust.
wonder why that is.
Yeah, there's dust, and there's a couple of cobwebs here and there, like you see it on the owl and whatnot, but there is way less cobwebs than there are in the DCA version. So if you see a photo of one of them, you're not really sure which one is which, say, is there a ton of cobwebs? It's probably California. So I also want to give a shout out to A Land of Shadow and Substance blog, who has given a lot of the photos that you see and some of the information here, and documentation of the defunct DCA tower comes from them. So please go check out the Land of Shadow and Substance blog to give them a little bit of support as well. So the show info guide story synopsis for the lobby is: the splendor suggested in the building exterior continues in the lobby, but an uncomfortable air of mystery deepens. The lobby is a still life, a picture frozen in time with luggage, coats, hats, and personal effects still in place, abandoned by their owners the night the hotel closed in 1939. The lobby at the Hollywood Tower Hotel at Disney's California Adventure is quite similar to the lobby of the Tower of Terror attraction in Florida, although some of the furnishings have been updated to reflect the newer architectural styling used in the California attraction. There is a difference of 10 years between the Spanish Baroque style of the Hollywood Tower Hotel in Florida and the Pueblo Deco style of the Tower Hotel in California. The handrails and dividers feature bronze grille work in characteristic geometric patterns. In pots and planters are dried dead plants, contributing to the story of neglect and age. The owl statue featured in the lobby Twilight Zone episode is a duplicate of the statue that appears in the lobby of the Florida Tower of Terror. So the owl in question that we're seeing here is the reproduction owl sculpture, which we've talked about before, which is a bronze by Jules Monnier called Monumental Owl. And you can actually go purchase this one in case you want your own owl for your living room or whatnot.
If you need to know what to get Kate for Christmas.
Just a little owl. Yeah. Honestly, you could get a lot of these props we've talked about, online, different places. So if you wanted to build your own tower living room. I do want to talk about the ceiling just a little bit. And it says from the show info guide, the ceiling itself features an elegant coffered design. Native American stencil patterns decorate the ceiling beams and corbels, as found in buildings such as the Ahwahnee Hotel in Yosemite, which I went to go visit this summer with my family, and we rode our bikes over there from where we were staying because we don't have this kind of money. But we did go in and explore it. So this photo is one I took this summer from the Ahwahnee Hotel. And honestly, the Ahwahnee is in much rougher shape than the California Adventure Tower of Terror. It definitely needs some painting. The beams are chipping and peeling a little bit.
Poor place looks like just shattered.
Yeah. But it has, you can see these kind of like Native American patterns that are on the beams. And that specifically was their inspiration for what you see here in California Adventure. But if you don't mind, Kirk, I would love to just do a little tiny side trail about the Ahwahnee because it's got some really interesting history.
Yeah.
The Ahwahnee Hotel was located in Yosemite National Park. It's has a national park rustic style architecture with American Indian craftsman and Art Deco influences. So it's not exactly Pueblo Deco, but it's very similar. It's adjacent, I would say.
Okay.
And these are all my own photos from exploring it this summer. This hotel opened in July of 1927, so very, very close to when our tower is placed. Photographer Ansel Adams was so taken with the building that he wrote, "Yet on entering the Ahwahnee, one is conscious of calm and complete beauty, echoing the mood of majesty and peace that is the essential quality of Yosemite. Against a background of forest and precipice, the architect has nestled the great structure of granite, scaling his design with sky and space and stone. To the interior, all ornamentation has been confined, and therein lies a miracle of color and design. The Indian motif is supreme. The designs are stylized with tasteful sophistication, decidedly Indian, yet decidedly more than Indian, Native American in this case. They epitomize the involved and intricate symbolism of primitive man," which is just beautifully designed, this hotel, when you're in it. I'm showing you some photos of like the way that the windows were designed to specifically frame the different stone structures that we see outside the mountains and whatnot. And like this is Half Dome in this one, which is iconic one for Yosemite. But inside, you can see these really beautiful elements that are not that different from what we see inside the tower. It definitely has some like that Native American influence that we'd see, like Pueblo Deco, this like mixed with Art Deco, and some chairs that are very similar to it. And you can see that tile work on the floor, which I thought the second I walked in here, Kirk, I was like, this reminds me of the Tower of Terror. Like, and I was just like, instantly, I was like, oh my gosh, especially like, look at this old phone. Is so much like the ones we've been studying in the Florida Tower for so long. It's got like the black house phone on a console table. It was like, have I stepped into the Tower of Terror? This is so weird. And all of the things.
I ran into that table real hard the other day. I didn't say anything, but it was bad, dude. I smashed into it because they were like, I wasn't paying attention. That was all me.
Whoops. Oh, man. So this hotel hosted endless celebrities and dignitaries, including Walt Disney. Other notable guests include Dwight D. Eisenhower, the Shah of Iran, Herbert Hoover, Eleanor Roosevelt, Will Rogers, Gertrude Stein, Charlie Chaplin, Lucille Ball, Ronald Reagan, Greta Garbo, John F. Kennedy, and Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip. So this is where the Hollywood elite would go and stay in Yosemite, which is, it's, if you don't know where that is, it's kind of like midway up California. So it's not like super close to LA. It would be a bit of a trek to get there. This is like one of the main gathering halls for the Ahwahnee Hotel. And do you remember, Kirk, how we talked about at the beginning of this series, how when they were brainstorming ideas for the Tower of Terror, they talked about The Shining?
Yeah.
Well, the Ahwahnee was the architectural inspiration for director Stanley Kubrick for The Shining. So he was captivated by the Ahwahnee's grand interior design during a personal visit and decided to model the movie sets after it for the fictional Overlook Hotel. So this is the Overlook Hotel from The Shining. And you can definitely see, I think the biggest part is the chandeliers, which I've showed you that are circular, that are hanging up above with that. The ceiling is really hard to see here, but it's a very similar ceiling. The way this room is laid out and the balconies that you see on the far side, because if you look back at this one, it's almost identical, the way that is laid out. So obviously the Overlook Hotel's exteriors in that particular scene was just created as a movie set, but it was created after the Ahwahnee. This is really cool. So you remember the scene where like the blood like rushes out of the elevator in The Shining?
How could you not?
Well, these are the actual elevators that are in the Ahwahnee. And then this is that scene with the blood pouring out of the elevator. And it is almost just like they pulled it directly from there. So
that's wild, dude.
Yeah, isn't that awesome? The reason I bring this up is because why would they want to use this particular style in this architecture for the Tower of Terror? Well, it would be then instantly creepy for guests walking into it, because, you know, this is something the Imagineers have done often, using references to pop culture to create atmosphere. So if you were somebody who had seen The Shining, which many, many people did, you would probably instantly feel a little creeped out walking into a lobby that was very similar to that. So yeah. I think that's why they chose that specific style, because of this movie, and knowing that The Shining has been an influence even for the corridor scene and everything all the way through. So they're capitalizing on what already exists in the collective subconscious mind by using that architecture. And I just also want to point out that this architecture of this building did also inspire part of the architecture for the Grand Californian Hotel, which is attached to DCA. But we don't have to get more into that, but there's a lot of that there as well. So the other thing I want to point out is the light fixtures in here, which not the chandeliers that are up in the ceiling, but the ones that are on the side. We've seen these before in Florida, these little, like we call them almost like sea serpent sculptures that are sconces that are holding these lamps. The lamp itself is different than what we see in Florida, but they are a little bit different in California Adventure. So if you remember that these ones, the original actually came from the Fox Theater that was being torn down in Seattle, Washington. So this is where these actually came from for the Florida version. And the Florida version has the originals, the authentic ones that look like this. But they took apart the little like sea dragon part and the other one, and they used them in different places to just kind of be able to have more of them. So this is the one that's in DCA, and you can see, I think it's just from the same mold. I think they just made more of them, but I doubt these ones are authentic because they'd already used them in Florida. That's my guess. But in the show info guide, it does say the ornate lanterns adorn the walls supported by serpentine bronze dragons. So they actually name what they are, Kirk.
Dragons. So serpentine dragons.
Serpentine bronze dragons. 4 glass chandeliers hang from the ceiling, again reflecting a geometric Native American influence. And then you can see more replicas of the ornate part that was hanging from the dragon in the Fox Theater. Again, I'm pretty sure these are replicas, probably laser cut ones, because this is what you can see when they auctioned it off. This is an up close version of the California Adventure one. This picture is actually Disneyland Paris, but this is the California Adventure one. And it definitely looks like it's very perfect. So on the left-hand side, we see a table that has a deck of cards, a cribbage board, 2 wine glasses, all carefully placed to indicate that the people in this lobby left in a hurry without a thought of taking anything with them and never came back. That's from the show info guide. So it's what we're seeing here is a deck of cards with a cribbage board. And then there is a wine server that's behind the chair in this is all the California Adventure version. There's a vase with flowers. There's a lamp that's like a Chinese soapstone figurine. A gold painted acrylic goblet is in the back there, which I've learned from the auction sales that they are just ones that they painted. So they're not necessarily like authentic brass or whatever. There's a book, there's some room keys, and then there is these chairs here. This is from the auction, so if you get a closer look at that. There's also a standing ashtray, which you can kind of see here in the front of that as well. There's a better picture of the standing ashtray that's in the front, which we've discussed before, so we won't get into the history of that right now. So there is a book on the table here that's called Popular Indoor Games and Amusements. I couldn't find the inside of it. I could only find the outside. I just know it was published in the early 1900s. So that's where they were learning how to play cribbage on this table. And so this is a version from 1970s that I could find that looked like somewhat of a reprint of it. And it said in the contents. So here's the things that you could learn in this book. There's conjuring, ventriloquism, card tricks, sleight of hand card tricks, card games, round games, arithmetical puzzles and curiosities, mechanical puzzles, word games, and word squares. So that's what you could learn if you're sitting in the tower and you need something to do in the Hollywood Tower Hotel. I also found one that was similar by the same publisher, and it says the 50 best party games, amusement for all. And so I was looking at what was inside here. And so they had games for like a teenage party. And honestly, Kirk, there's some very similar ones to things that we've probably known before. One was like a shopping expedition, which is kind of like I packed grandma's suitcase. I don't know if you've ever played that with your kids. Like
I played Mall Madness, dude.
No, it's not that one. Although that's a fun game. But like the idea of like, you say, I pack grandma's suitcase and I put something, we do alphabetical.
Yeah.
It's like a memory game. And there's another one called Who Am I, which is like famous celebrities, like the idea of you like put it on your forehead and they guess and those kinds of things. Same kind of thing. So you can use it as an icebreaker, all that. They also have garden games, like the hoop obstacle race, and there's diagrams and whatnot for how to play them. So I just thought that was kind of an interesting idea. And that book is sitting on the table. I think that's actually in the Paris version, which I'm going to mention real quick, just as we're here. So the Paris version also has a wine server that's in the corner. It has a vase with flowers. I looked up like the meaning of these flowers, like cream-colored roses mean thoughtfulness, charm, and elegance, to show sympathy or to celebrate a special occasion like an anniversary or birthday. Which would make sense with kind of like the champagne in the corner.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The chair is like a Jacobean revival from 1890. So it has this beautiful purple cushion on it. But you can see a very similar style here with these two lions that are at the top, which I think brings a nice regal element to it. But the book that I'm talking about is specifically on the Paris version. So my apologies that I was showing the California Adventure, but that book of party games is actually in the Paris version on the table, which you can see here. There's also an ashtray and some flowers and a double-sided lamp that has a bird on it, which you can see in this one, sort of ish. And then a goblet and people playing some sort of card game here as well. Speaking of which, we got to pop back over to the DCA version. Kirk, what do you got to tell us about these card games in these places?
Well, they're playing cribbage, Kate.
Of course.
By the way, cribbage is very confusing. Just
I played it a lot. It's fun.
Really? Mm-hmm. I feel like every good game is super confusing until you play with somebody who learned by playing from somebody else. Like when you read instructions, nightmare. But I was able to find a vintage Cardinal Wood cribbage 2-player board, which looks very similar to the one that is on the tower table. The most common way to play cribbage is 2-player with a 52 card deck, and the first person to 121 points, which gets tracked on this wooden pegboard, is the winner. Each player gets dealt 6 cards. Each player chooses 2 cards to discard into the crib, a separate bonus hand used by the dealer, and each player now has 4 cards, and the crib belongs to the dealer, who will score later. You start by cutting the starter card or turn card. The non-dealer will cut the deck. The dealer flips the top card to the lower pile, and then this card is the starter or the cut. And then it depends on which card valuations is how the points are. Now, the play, which I didn't come up with this, they call this turn pegging. Is when players take turns laying down 1 card at a time, announcing the running total not exceeding 31 points. So playing a card that makes a running total exceed 15 scores 2 points. If you get 31, that scores 2 points. And then there's 3 of a kind, 4 of a kind, and so on and so forth. There's a lot to cribbage, but I was able to find this vintage one, which there you go. That's what awesome. They were playing.
All right, Kirk, what do we have over in the Disneyland Paris version on the table? Because the card game's definitely different there.
So if we look at this table, you'll notice in the center, there's a shoe. So if you don't know anything about cards or dealing, or you never like played any casino or anything, a shoe is where cards are stored before they are dealt out. This shoe is kind of unique because it has 2 slots for poker chips, and then in the front is where the dealer would pull out cards to place in here. Now there are betting units on both sides of the board, which would mean that this is a betting game of sorts. In the center, there are community cards that are face up. There is a discard pile, and then there are 3 cards being held in the hand for each one of the players on this table. I was able to find a pretty good picture too on top of, here, let me see if I can pull this into a separate picture so we can zoom in, and then you get a good shot of that indoor games pamphlet that Kate was talking about, which it does crack me up that Conjuring is the number 1 game that you have to pull up is Conjuring, bro.
Conjuring.
It's that clearly makes sense for the tower.
Yes.
So guessing wise as to what these could be, the most common game of that time period would have been Brag. So 3-card Brag was a British game. You could play between 2 and 8 players. You would use a standard 52-card deck and have the best 3-card hand, or you could bluff like you did. So it would have, this is one that was actually being played in some sort of casino. But you would get dealt, each player would get dealt 3 cards face down, and all players would place an ante into the pot. There would be betting systems of a bet, a see, a raise, or a fold, just like standard poker, but there was no fixed limit, meaning like there was no limit, similar to like a Texas Hold'em kind of style. Although this was invented in the 1800s, so it was like 1836 was the first time that people were playing Brag. There were, because you're using the community cards in the center, you could have 3 of a kind, straight flush, pair, high card, 2 pair. But in this one, in Brag, straights would actually beat flushes, where in American poker, flush would be a straight. So you were trying to get the best 5-hand card hand to beat the opponent, and there would be various betting as there was discards and the community use. It could also have been another game that's called Guts, but more than likely, it was less popular, even though it used community cards. There's not that many betting games that used community cards back there in the 1930s, or at least ones that were popular. So more than likely, they were playing Brag.
Okay, I have 2 questions. One is, would those cards be laying on the table like that, or did they drop them out of their hand when they disappeared?
Okay, so great question. These you would be hiding your hand, right? And you would be betting. So this would be like, I was holding my hand up here and then just poof. So, so there you go. That would be what I think they're playing is they're playing Brag, but yeah, they disappeared, and hence why their hands are exposed, because your hands wouldn't be exposed until the final betting, and then you would flip over and see who had the best hand.
So that's the storytelling, is they dropped their cards as they disappeared. And do we know who was winning? Do you have any idea?
Oh, that's a good question. All right. Based on my limited knowledge of Brag, I would say the person on the left-hand side was winning, only because they have at least a pair of aces and they have 3 of the suit. I can't see the last card that's on the community. I think that's a diamond, but nobody else has, there's no straight, no flush. So for either hand. So I'm going to go, the pair of aces is going to take this down.
Yeah. Okay. So the winner's on the left. Left is always right. The other thing that we see on this table is there is a cup of tea that has the spoon sitting in it, as if it's been, and it looks like it has liquid that's been like half finished, which I was also thinking, Kirk, like, isn't it like poor etiquette to have your spoon sitting in your teacup like that when they have taken it out and put it on the side of the plate?
I would think so, only because there definitely have been, in lots of different cultures, if you leave your utensils, it either means that it's like a sign of disrespect. Like there's something wrong with it and you need to fix it or enhance it, or you're not full enough. Like there's like all these different like cultural norms. So I feel like that's probably a respect thing.
So I was thinking maybe that's part of the storytelling, is they were mid stir of
they were
their
like
tea.
stirring.
Yeah. And then they disappeared. So I don't know. Just a thought. There's also some flowers on here as well. There's a vase full of flowers in the Paris version. I just want to point out that the design that's up on the curtains, like at the top of the window, is this like geometric pattern, and it is different in California Adventure versus Paris. You can see the differences there, and this is from that Land of Shadow and Substance blog, so shout out to them for this one to show the comparison between the two. Moving over to the little alcove that has the window and it has a console table. It's got 2 lamps in both California Adventure and Disneyland Paris, and they both have a dragon statue, which I did try to find, Kirk. I don't know if you had any luck with finding the exact statue.
No.
But they're different. So the one that's in California Adventure almost has like 2 dragons, I think, from this what you can see in this picture. And the one in Disneyland Paris just has 1, and he's like holding a little ball. And we've talked about dragons before, that the meaning of dragons in general, like this with a serpentine body, long whiskers, and a flowing mane, are almost always benevolent creatures representing power, protection, and good fortune. They traditionally represent protection, like dragons were believed to guard a home or space from evil spirits or misfortune. So again, this is foreshadowing for like something bad is about to happen for you, but there's something that's going to protect you, or the idea that there are bad spirits around that you need protecting from. They also represent imperial authority, natural strength, or mastery over the elements. But I think that's why it's here. It's like not only the exoticism of the 1930s hotel era and the period's fascination with global travel and collecting art from East Asia. I think that's why this is in the hotel. And I do have a little note from the show info guide about the lush green velvet drapes that hang in the windows. It says the drapery valances carry Native American designs and accents. On the wall, there is also a painting, which I was trying to figure this out for the longest time, Kirk, because from far away, this painting, I swear this woman was holding a cat, like a pet cat in her hand. Turns out she's not holding a cat in her hand.
It's a glove.
It's a glove.
But it'd be a pretty cool cat.
You're real. I thought she...
See, actually, that's what everybody thinks of her, is that that's Dolores. She always pets her gloves. She's a little strange, so.
That's her, yeah, budget cat.
What's the glove language there, dude?
I don't know. That's a good one. But I want to say thank you to our Distory listener and art historian, Moogie, for identifying this one for us, because I had no idea. This is Lady with Glove by William Adolphe Bouguereau. It's an oil and canvas portrait painting with a neoclassicism style. The painting emphasizes the single black glove as its only accessory worn by a lady in the painting, apart from a small earring. Born in the year 1825, William Bouguereau is a French academic painter who is most popular for his mythological-based paintings and realistic genre paintings, such as Lady with Glove. He interprets classic subjects in his own way by adding a modern twist to it. He always emphasizes the female human body in his paintings, which is what we see here. And there's also a note.
It looks like she touched the Necronomicon. Like that's not a glove, dude. That's like, she just has a giant dyed hand.
Yeah, it's creepy looking. It's like,
it shows way too much detail for a gloved hand. It's like saran wrapped, but dark, like almost like she put her hand in an inkwell.
Yeah, and her hand almost looks like too large for her body in some way. Like it's not very proportionate.
There was AI, kids.
There's also a note from Moogie. It says, they say, I'm 99% sure the model is his first wife, Nellie Monchablon. Bouguereau outlived her and 4 out of their 5 children by quite a bit. So thank you so much, Moogie, for letting us know about that. Appreciate you looking up that painting for us. So that's what's hanging over there in the corner.
We would have thought it was a cat.
I totally thought it was a cat. I really did. And it was so blurry when you zoomed in. And then we get to the other table, which in the Florida version is known as we called it like the couples table, right? That was very romantic vibes. This one, less romantic vibes, more like tea time. So there's some teacups here. There's a Chinese soapstone lamp that's a little bit different than the other one, but there's still a figurine lamp there. And I was looking at these teacups, Kirk. I think these are probably Limoges teacups. The Limoges China cups originated in the Limoges region of France after the discovery of high quality kaolin clay in 1768. This allowed local artisans to produce true hard paste porcelain comparable to the finest in Europe and China. By the early 1800s, Limoges became a major porcelain center, supplying elegant tableware to French nobility and international buyers. Throughout the 19th and early 20th centuries, many factories created thin, translucent cups, often decorated with hand painting and gilding, which is what we see in the tower. The craftsmanship and refined style of Limoges porcelain became widely recognized and sought after, and today authentic Limoges cups remain collectible for their beauty, quality, and long-standing artistic heritage. So this is actually one that I found that's an Art Deco style of Limoges that has like a blue ring around it as well as the gold. But the one that we see on this tea table, this is the one in California Adventure. It is just white with a gold handle and a gold ring around it. And then this is cool. I found a close-up of what the top of the table looks like. And there's some napkins, an empty plate, but there is also postcards that say greetings from Hollywood, California. And somebody's actually writing this postcard with a pen and clearly disappeared mid-writing it, which is fun. So it says, I can't read the beginning part. It was too hard to make out. So it says, Dear somebody, blank is lovely, but I've yet to see any movie stars. There's a terrible storm outside as I write this. It is almost as if... And that's where it stops.
Dun, dun, dun.
Almost as if what? We'll never know.
So that is a 1920s cast metal pewter Art Deco picture, or a metal ewer, E-W-E-R, which if you don't know what an ewer is, it's only used for water primarily. So so that would be, I guess they would probably put hot water in there. And carry that over to the table for people to make their tea. I was able to find the one that was somewhat similar, although it doesn't have the square or angled base like they have on that one, but similar time period. Although this one was hammered, where the other one looks like it was poured and cast.
Right. There's also a jacket that's draped over the chair on the right side as well. Moving over to Disneyland Paris, we again see the similar chairs as before. We see a jacket that's draped on the right side in this one, a vase full of flowers, and the same lamp that we saw in the previous table just repeated as well. There's also a standing ashtray next to the left side over here, and there's some teacups and a teapot, and then there's some cards on the table that I could not get a closer look at, and a letter as well. So I'm going to try to do a little bit more digging and see if I can find a better photo of that for next week, to see if I can see what is actually the details of those cards that's on the table.
Standing ashtray looks so much like a scabbard or a fencing sword, too. The way that it's designed, it's really neat.
Yeah, I was thinking that it almost looks like a sword stuck in the floor, you know? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the other thing that is nearby here, because this is a tea table, there is tea carts nearby. So this is the California Adventure version, with a very similar tea set to what Kirk was just showing us with like the pewter set. It's not much different than the one that was in Florida. There's a vase full of flowers on it, and there's all the different accessories for a tea set. Down below, though, there's no newspaper on these ones. There's just like a serving set and some napkins and some extra dishes and whatnot. And the one in Paris is very similar, except it looks like there's extra vases on the bottom instead. But again, it's this like rolling tea cart that would be serving that table. And I do think that this is probably similar to Florida, possibly a reference to the tea that was held on the Lady Anne in the Passage on the Lady Anne, season 4, episode 17, episode of the Twilight Zone, where a married couple embarks on a journey aboard an aging ocean liner called the Lady Anne, hoping to rekindle the relationship, only to find themselves the only young passengers alongside a ship full of elderly voyagers on its mysteriously final voyage. As husband Alan realizes his love for his wife when she briefly vanishes and then returns, the couple is inexplicably forced off mid-ocean, and the ship and its senior passengers vanish without a trace. So you can see here that they're having tea with this, in that episode that's very, very similar to the setup that we see here, but tea is tea. So, this could just be speculation by my part. But the idea of the wife looks like you won't have to die after all, which alarms the couple. It's a critical moment for the plot of the story. So the innocent tea is actually very threatening. There's a lot of storytelling for that. So tea is a bit ominous in this Twilight Zone episode, and I think that's probably why they include it in the tower. But honestly, it's also could just be storytelling that they're having tea at an elegant hotel, and that's also possible as well. So
I was trying to determine what the on the very bottom, if that was like for like a salad with salad tongs and like you could toss it table side. And then is that a fondue set on the upper right?
A fondue set, maybe, but I didn't think would they have fondue at that point?
I don't know. I was thinking about it when you were talking about.
That's it. It is an interesting item. I'm not entirely sure what that is.
I don't know.
I don't know what else they would put in there. So that's a good question.
Food for thought.
Yeah. That being said, I think that's where this episode has to pause because we have a lot of things to look at in the couch area with the end tables, the fireplaces, the front desk, the luggage, and also leading into the foyer for the elevators. There's a whole bunch coming up there, and it's just not enough time today to go over it. But Kirk, do you have any final thoughts here as we wrap up this episode?
I will not be playing cribbage anytime soon. It seems too complicated.
What if I taught it to you? Would you play it then?
Sure.
Okay. Someday, when we're old and have more time, we'll learn
Bring
how
a
to play
cribbage board over.
Kate and Kirk. This is Cribbage with Kate and Kirk. We'll have a new podcast.
That's our new podcast. It's really enthralling.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us for this episode of Distory. We hope you enjoyed stepping inside these two different towers that are somewhat alike, but also have some differences to them. Next time, we're going to cover more of the lobby, finish that up, and but pause before we get into the libraries as well, because there's so much to talk about, and we have a fun time digging into all these little details with you. But until next time, have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next time for Distory.